Life begins at the sound of a heartbeat. The heart is an organ that human beings need to survive, and in addition to, it also is the key indicator of how we want to live. There is always a constant battle between the heart and the mind. The mind thinks logically, but the heart thinks emotionally. Our mind knows what we want, but our heart knows what we deserve, and that is forgiveness. When we forgive, our souls become calm and peaceful. The power of forgiving from the heart opens our mind to understanding and acceptance. When we begin to establish relationships of any kind, we need to be mentally prepared. People are not perfect and may disappoint you. As a partner, you must be strong enough to forgive and accept them from the heart, help them get back on track and better understand you. The mind is powerful when it overthinks. Don't allow your mind to think of a person as infallible when one mistake goes wrong and breaking up occurs. That is an illusion of selfishness, and there is no guarantees of life without making mistakes. It is one thing if your partner makes a mistake, learns from it, and makes sure it never happens again. By then, you will accept their apology and move on together. But it is another thing if your partner makes a mistake, they don't acknowledge it, and disregards your feelings. By then, you would break up or do something out of spite because you are hurt and weak. People often become emotionally unavailable and selfish when their heart is betrayed. Understand that when decisions are made based upon weak emotions, it normally leads to a path of regret, and forgiveness is not easy. Breakups are messy and definitive, especially for those who are still in love with their partner, bound together by children, and have history. It is not easy to say goodbye. If we temporarily forgive without understanding and correcting their behavior, we will suffer more in the long run, and there will be drama and unhappiness within the family. Furthermore, the atmosphere in the household will become toxic, and damage will be imprinted upon the children's soul. It is unfortunate, but due to different cultures and generations, couples tend to stay together for the sake of their children. In that case, the victim must learn to accept the suffering and try not to spread the negativity to others. Most times, both partners tend to put up a disguise and act happy in front of their children, friends, colleagues, and society as they appear happy. No matter how many times you make excuses for your partner's mistakes and behavior, you will never truly be happy with yourself and continue to be hurt. This wound will silently devastate your soul. In the Buddhist House of Resentment, he states that resentment increases suffering, one of the 8 miseries of all human miseries, because you have to live with the despise of someone you've grown to know. If you have a repetitive attitude towards remorse, then you will look at the process of exchange and feel relief. If your partner continues to do the wrong things and is unaware of their trauma, then your heart will become extremely ill. The longer you tolerate your partner's behavior, the more difficult it will be when you decide to leave him or her regardless of the children. Musician Quốc Bao has 4 beautiful verses. Peaceful, a moment for a soft heart. Peaceful for the flower to bloom. Peaceful for the moon to rise. Peaceful for the wave to clash from both sides. The person who wrote these verses must have been someone who had experienced reality to see the power of a peaceful mind. Deep down, we realize that we never forgive those who betrayed us, and in return, it can make us suffer. On the brighter side, it can make your heart peaceful again, because as time goes on, we tend to forget what happened. You will no longer dwell on the past, be demanding, wait around or wish for anything. Accepting it from what it was and allowing the effects of peace to soften your heart. Peaceful for the flower to say hello. When you are in a state of peacefulness, a flower will come out and say hello, and you will see the flower bloom. Figuratively, when you are at peace with yourself, you will bloom like a flower. There is something magical inside the flower that will come out fresh, looking for life to explore. Peaceful for the moon to rise. When you are sitting peacefully watching as the night begins, you will see the moon rise. When you are at peace with yourself, the moon in your heart will rise and enlighten you to open your eyes and see what you should and shouldn't do. peaceful to raise the waves on both sides. When you are at peace, you should do acts of kindness from the heart to help people and not have expectations in return. From an agitated heart that is full of painful sensation, you must find peace from within to feel again. Before, you were a person who carried pain in your heart and sufferings in your soul. As resentment built up, you wanted to punish the person and seek revenge, but instead you offered peace and a helping hand to forgive. Now, you are a person who has found happiness again. When you have the willpower to make peace in any situation, then, as there is growth within each other, then we grow up together. A verse in a peaceful song of Quoc Bao. Thank you to the person who made me feel miserable so that I can grow up to be matured. Thank you to that person so that I have more stamina to grow. Everyone has the ability to forgive. We as human beings make mistakes. We are still foolishly ignorant and are still forgetful. If we are accepted and forgiven by others, then in return, we must accept and forgive those as well. That is the law of emotional balance. In Buddhism, there is the practice of forgiveness. Gautama Buddha gives us a very good example. If someone puts a handful of salt in a cup of water, then the cup of water is too salty to drink. But they put a handful of salt in the river, or even if they put a bag of salt in the river, then the river water can be consumed because the amount of water in the river is so vast. Therefore, the bag of salt does not make the river salty. Gautama Buddha said, when we are miserable, we allow the situation to upset us, not because of the circumstances nor the subject matter. Instead, it is because the capacity of your heart is so small, like a handful of salt. It can make us suffer and feel miserable. If we look at our heart like the river, then we can tolerate as many handfuls of salt as we can. But the question is, how big is the capacity of your heart? Here, we have to be aware of this when Gautama Buddha came up with the story. We have to believe the capacity of your heart can be extended if we know how to practice. Like before, a cup of water that cannot become a river. It can become a vase of water, then a jug of water, then a pond of water, and lastly, it becomes a full river. He also said that the capacity of our heart can be reached to infinity. Forgiveness does not come easily. It requires a steady and calm insight. Forgiveness is really valuable. Don't live for your pride, rather honor yourself. Don't live for the validation of others, rather be confident in who you are. And don't live in your miserable loneliness, rather be kind and forgive yourself. When you overlook the bad qualities of others, you will regret it. Sometimes they do not deserve your forgiveness, and that will be a lesson for them to learn. You have to let them taste a bit of their own medicine for them to grow. A lack of restraint for forgiveness on the wrong terms will make the opponent disdain and continue in their bad habits. Buddhism teaches us that compassion has to collide with the smart, meaning that you can be loving, but you have to be smart and calm to deeply understand your situation and opponent. When you are in the right mindset, you are brave and determined. There are 3 conditions that must be present in order to seek forgiveness, and they are the 3 Ng, a compassion, a smart, and a brave. How do you forgive yourself when the mistakes made dictate your life? You can always wish that things were different or had panned out differently, or you can point fingers at people and blame them, but what good does that do for you? You are the only person that is in charge of your life. Your heart beats for you and no one else. Forgiving yourself is the ultimate key. You need to reinvent yourself, move forward, and feel happiness again. Once you acknowledge the power of forgiving yourself, it will become much easier for you to forgive others, especially the wounds that others have inflicted on you. Remember, their actions may not have anything to do with you, so when you address the situation and forgive them, you create a connection that is much deeper, like friendship. Feeling guilty about past situations is normal. It shows that we are a conscious human being, but we should not be living in those feelings because feelings tend to take control over our thoughts and we will lose all faith. The energy we radiate is toxic and unhealthy. which affects and influences those around us. Most of us use the will to suppress the feelings every time it appears. Although we always try to remind ourselves to forgive as well as expanding the heart's capacity is noble, but not always successful. Drowned in our emotions, we may reflect back to every stage of your life. Based upon your habits, look between the lines and see what you want, what you mourn and regret. You are in pain for yourself and those who you love. Understand that there is darkness and there is light. There is holy, but there is also divine. There is a flower, but there are thorns. You should learn how to accept who you are. Like the flower, you have to accept the thorns. There are also pros and cons to every decision you make. First and foremost, you need to study and practice accepting both the pros and cons of your life. People want to believe that life flows in a straight line, but in reality, there will be a messy scribble everywhere. But that is your journey to learn. If good things happen, accept it. If bad things happen, also accept it. Acceptance does not mean to complicate without compromises. To accept means to not oppose or resist each other, but to allow working together and improving each other. If you can accept your weaknesses, you can overlook the thorns of the flower. A great method of healing a wound and releasing our inner thoughts is meditation. Meditation is the process of reducing your outward orientation and giving priority to turn inside you. It does not allow us to be angry at ourselves. First, you will learn how to observe your body throughout each step you take. The movement of your hands as you breathe in and out. Stay attuned to your feelings, comfortable or not. Learn how psychology works. Meditation may not be an interest to most people, therefore, they may seek another method like a hobby to help express their soul. Anything from reading, exercising, traveling, cooking, cleaning, or connecting with nature. Those are all good hobbies that can help relieve depression and provide good energy inside you. Of course, we do need to reflect back on our mistakes and learn our lesson, but if we are constantly angry, our belief will collapse and allow the mistakes to identify who we are. We need to focus on our good intentions that others will appreciate and value. If we focus on our regrets daily, it will consume our lives and open the door to darkness instead of the light at the end of the tunnel. Life experiences are the greatest teachers. Sometimes we do not accept our complete selves because of our inner egos and want to protect ourselves from embarrassment. Society's perception of us is like a beautiful breeze, but a bad cover. We are used to living in a coping performance. If we live based upon the expectations of others, then we are truly hiding from who we are. Understand that some moments or another, times are good and times are bad. Sometimes we are in control and sometimes we are not. When you feel irritated on the inside, it will show in your demeanor. The longer you hold on to negative feelings, it will affect you physically, mentally, and emotionally. Most of us use the will to suppress our feelings every time that it appears. When wounds come, it is an awakened energy that is awaiting to be observed. This tranquility is gentle and very benign, so it can hug the wound. The feeling is like mom hugging me. Thank you for the energy of the wound that began to heal me. If you abandon it, it will come and go, but the wound will never be healed. When we choose to forgive each other, our hearts will feel lighter. Having hate towards someone will harbor sadness that cannot be dismissed. Your sufferings will affect your mindset, which will then dictate your aurora. When you truly forgive, love naturally opens up our hearts. Forgiveness is like a cool water stream that heals all wounds inside you. Buddha says, any person who cannot forgive themselves and others from the bottom of their hearts will never be able to relax.